Dial.
It's going to be fun.
They got the clearance after your first floor.
What? No, they can't. Good evening. This is Senator Dean Heller. I'm in my office, Washington, D.C. This is my weekly teletown hall meeting. Thank you for joining me and spending some time with me this evening. What we do on these teletown hall meetings, a lot of you probably participated in these before, but it's an opportunity for us to go back and forth on issues that you're facing here in Washington, D.C., and, of course, issues at home. I'm in Las Vegas with this call this evening. If you want to participate in this teletown hall meeting, most of you know, hit 0 on your keypad. If you hit 0 on your keypad, that'll put you in the queue, and we'll get to as many questions as we can in the next hour. Hit 0, put you in that queue, and we'll talk about jobs in the economy. We'll talk about health care. Any question that you might have. We have the UI extension bill reintroduced today. We can talk about the Second Amendment, immigration issues, all of those issues that you think that you want to talk about this evening. I look forward to talking to you with it. Again, hit 0 on your keypad. That puts you in the queue, and we're going to get to as many calls as we can in the next hour. This is Senator Dean Heller, and I'm in my office in Washington, D.C., welcoming everybody who's joining us this evening for this teletown hall meeting. We'll have a number of people on the line, so I'll repeat that as we go out throughout this evening, because sometimes it takes 15 to 20 minutes to get everybody on this call. We're in Clark County this evening. A lot's going on, and I want to hear from you. Best way for me to hear from you is for you to hit 0 on your keypad so that we can get to as many callers as possible. If you're not comfortable hitting 0 and having this conversation, you can always call my office in Las Vegas at 702-388-6605. Talk to any of my staff there for any questions or comments you have, or just go to my website at heller.senate.gov. I'll repeat these telephone numbers and the website address throughout this evening, so if you have a pen and piece of paper ready, then throughout this evening, you'll get a chance to jot it down and, again, stay in contact with me, because it's important to our office, and we get numerous phone calls and faxes and letters and emails throughout the week, and we certainly want to make sure that we respond to everybody. You can count on that. That's how this office works. That's how we try to stay in contact along with these teletown hall meetings. So anyway, thanks for joining. Hit 0 on your keypad. That puts you in the queue. And we're going to our first call this evening and talk to Joyce. Joyce?
This is Joyce. Yes.
Hi, Joyce.
Hi.
Do you have a question?
How are you?
I'm doing fine. Do you have a question, please?
Yes. Why are they doing my daddy like that, and he's 89 years old? He can't get an appointment for 3 or 4 months.
Okay. Concerned about the VA, and I appreciate that.
That bothers me.
Okay, Joyce. Thank you, Joyce, and thanks for that call. Joyce is concerned about obviously getting to the VA and getting an appointment. It's something that I've been talking about while I've been back here in Washington, D.C. As you know, we have a Veterans Administration regional office in Reno that covers the whole state, and we're getting some of those positions shifted down to the southern end of the state so that the regional office can be more responsive. I'm not happy with what's going on at the VA. As you know, that the backlog that they have for getting benefits and health care to our veterans throughout this state have been quite slow. So we're working hard here in Washington, D.C. to see if we can turn this regional office around. I've called for the resignation of the current leader of this regional office, and hopefully something will happen. We can change that. And first of all, thank your family for their support and for their effort as veterans. I certainly do appreciate their service, as I do anybody on this call this evening that has served our country. So anyway, if you have any questions, call my office. We can expand and get the help that you need by talking to Margot. Margot in my office in Las Vegas. Again, that number is 388-6605, 388-6605. We're very good at helping our veterans. We'll continue to do so. So, Joyce, please give us that call. Call that office, 388-6605. We'll get you the support and help that you need. Let's move on and talk to Herb, also in Las Vegas. Herb?
Yes, I just was very interested in your answer to the last question. Why is everything political? I also served in the government, also in an elected office, and my job at that time was not to protect my party, but was to protect my constituents, and at that time my state. Why do we make everything now political, no matter what? I mean, if the VA is something's wrong there, instead of blaming the administration, let's do something about constructive instead of destructive.
Okay.
I'll wait for your comment.
All right, and Herb, I do appreciate your comments about the VA. You're right, and it's getting worse, and it's unfortunate. That's why I've joined several groups out here in Washington D.C. for the very concerns that you express, and that is the partisanship that we have back here. We've worked actually pretty well in a bipartisan manner on this VA issue. We passed in fact, I co-chaired the VA Backlog Working Group. I did that with a Democrat, so there was a Republican and a Democrat on that working group, and we came up with some pretty good ideas. There was a McCain-Sanders compromise, overwhelmingly passed the United States Senate. It'll go over to, in fact, the House passed their version of it. So we had a huge problem with this VA. Fortunately, both sides came together, said we have to do something about it. So it's in conference now. They're just looking at the differences between the House and the Senate bill, ironing those differences out. They'll come to the Senate. We'll send it to the President, and I think it'll go a long way in helping our veterans get the health care that they need. But what Herb was saying is, frankly, that's an aberration to what goes on out here in Washington, D.C. That's why I work hard trying to be as bipartisan as I possibly can, working with Democrats. I had a lunch the other day with a Democrat, an independent, and another Republican, the four of us sitting at the table in a dining room, and we've got some interesting glares from others that came in to see four of us, like I said, two Republicans, one Democrat, and one independent, having lunch together, but I think we need more of that. And instead of going to our respective party lunches, we ought to have a bipartisan lunch once a week to get everybody together and talk about issues. And I will tell you this. I was at a meeting this evening, started about 5 o'clock. It was a meeting that we're not to talk about because of the intelligence aspects of it, but talking about Iraq and the where we are today in Iraq, the problems that are going on in Iraq. But we brought Republicans and Democrats with an admiral in the room discussing and talking about the very topics that we should be talking about when it comes to foreign relations and to the problems that we have in Iraq and Afghanistan. It was a great meeting because Republicans and Democrats came together, were able to ask questions to the ambassador, to the admiral, and it's not something that you see all the time. So anyway, we could improve. Obviously, we could improve a lot, and we do a lot of finger pointing around here, and that's a shame. I'm working on the unemployment insurance benefits extension. I'm doing that with Jack Reed, a Democrat from Rhode Island. It's important for people in Nevada. We have 7.9% unemployment in the state of Nevada, one of the top 3 in the nation, and there are hardworking Nevadans that really need help right now. And so I'm working with that with Jack Reed in order to achieve that. We were fortunate enough to be able to pass it out of the Senate. The bill expired, so we reintroduced it today. So there are efforts. I just want Herb to know, and for everybody that's on the phone to know, that there are efforts being made to try to put some bipartisanship back into this place so we can get good things done for the American people. Herb, thank you. Thanks for the call. I want to go to my poll question. that I do every week, since we're on the topic of the economy and unemployment and so on and so forth. But you can all participate. There are a number of you on the line. I'll ask this question several times throughout this evening, but I like to get your feedback and your feelings on certain questions. So we do a poll on this, and I would urge everybody to participate. But the question, of course, is on the economy and whether or not it's improving. Obviously, we hear often about the president talking about the improved economy, and yet we still have 20 million Americans that are either unemployed or underemployed, which means probably that the real unemployment in this country is somewhere around 12%. Meanwhile, unemployment in Nevada remains one of the highest in the nation at 7.9%. Real unemployment probably closer to 15%. So here is the question for today. Do you feel like the economy is turning around? On your keypad on your phone in front of you, press 1 for yes, 2 for no, 3 if you're undecided. Do you feel like the economy is turning around? 1 for yes, 2 for no, and 3 if you're undecided. And thank you. As many as possible, if you'd please participate. The purpose of this is to use this information in committee, and I do that. I use it on the floor, in committee, one-on-one conversations with other senators. But it's important for me tonight to know how you feel at the southern end of the state on this particular question. The answers do vary throughout the different portions of the state, so hearing from Las Vegas tonight is very helpful. So please participate on your keypad, 1 for yes, 2 for no, 3 if you're undecided on whether or not you feel the economy is turning around. And thanks for participating. Let's go to Richard. Richard?
Yes. Actually, the reason I took the phone call is not regarding the economy, although I think we're really in serious trouble and it is not turning around. My concern is for that Marine that is in Mexico, and I'd like to know why the President Obama has not called the President of Mexico and demanded his release. Plus, there is very, very little news press on it. I would like more information, please.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
We can do that. We have made a number of questions, and we've asked questions, called the State Department, get more information. It's interesting how many people in Nevada, and quite a few in Nevada, are very concerned about this soldier that's in Mexico, and rightfully so. Clearly it hit the press, and it was top of the news for quite some time, and then slowly you've seen this move away and less discussions about this. But I'm concerned, as everybody else on this call, everybody that is concerned about this, I'm as concerned. But State Department, we have our calls in there trying to get some answers. They've offered consular services and look forward to some progress on this. And I'll continue to keep you updated. If you have my Twitter account, or if you get my newsletter, we'll continue to update as progress does ensue in the near future. But please sign up if you haven't. You can do that by going to my website at heller.senate.gov and sign up for my newsletter, my email newsletter, and we'll keep up to date on what's going on. But thanks for the call. Thanks for your concern. No soldier should be left behind, and in this case, I would certainly like to see this soldier in Mexico to come home. So thank you, and let's go to Brett. Brett? Is this Brett? I hear some voices. Let's move on. Let's go to Carl. Carl?
Hi. Now,
Hi.
actually, Carl's at work, so this is his wife, Mary Kay. And I know our biggest concern right now is I know that they're talking about the VA and you know our veterans trying to get in for care. But the other big issue with our veterans is they're having to wait 2 to 3 years for disability checks, and that's just not acceptable. And so thank you for the phone number, and I will call Margot tomorrow and see if she can help us because nobody else seems to. But I really feel sorry for you. I don't know what all of our good people are doing in Washington because How can you do anything against Obama? He does as he dang well pleases. He releases a possible traitor for 5 prisoners. He's accepting all these people across the border. Harry Reid puts all the money into Yucca Mountain but won't open it up, which would be a lot of good jobs for our people. The Captain Trade wouldn't pass, so Obama does EPA, and we've lost several big industries in our United States. A paper mill in Alabama, because he went in there and said $300 million to upgrade that paper mill, and it closed and went to Brazil. He's forcing people out of our country for industry. I just don't know how we can do and accomplish anything against this horrible man.
Right. Well, let me tell you what we should do. Why don't we start there? What we should do. And, Herb called earlier about bipartisan solutions. And we ought to concentrate on bipartisan solutions and some of the things that we can be doing. You mentioned some of them. Let's start with approving Keystone. It would create good-paying jobs, and it would obviously help lower energy costs also. We're going to see a spike in gasoline prices because of the conflict in Iraq and the turmoil that's going on over there this summer. And we could reduce, because we rely so heavily on foreign oil, we could reduce the influx and the fluctuation in prices of fuel if we had our own sources, which we certainly do, if we could get the administration to approve Keystone. Second thing we do is stop the job-killing national energy tax, something else that you also mentioned, the carbon tax. I think the EPA is coming down with the carbon tax. It's going to force people to pay such high taxes for fuel, for energy in their home, and what they're going to try to do is force everybody to ride their bikes to work. That is the goal, is to raise your taxes so high with these energy taxes and make this energy so difficult to live with that you're going to change your lifestyle. And that's the goal of this administration. We see it coming down the pipe. Also, we need real fair, not free, but fair trade agreements. It's one of the few growth industries we have in this country right now. If we can get some free trade agreements going that would open markets to American farmers, workers, and businesses to create good-paying jobs just on exports. Like I said, one of the few real growth opportunities that we have here in this country, and getting some fair trade agreements would be a movement in the right direction. I would repeal portions of Obamacare. Obviously, I voted against the bill itself, but if we could take portions of it, for example, the 30-hour work week rule, now calling it full-time work at only 30 hours, 30-hour work week, repeal that. Obviously, that's slashing hours and wages for the American workers. So anyway, we could also go with the medical device tax, repeal that also, because that's costing American jobs. There are so many bipartisan, by the way, both sides, if you put any of those solutions on the Senate floor or the House floor today, every single one of those would pass. It's the leadership that's blocking our opportunity to move forward on some of that. I know that Keystone would pass tomorrow with probably 65, 70 votes in the United States Senate, but we have problems getting these issues to the floor. These are all bipartisan solutions, things that we could be doing here in Washington today to solve the problems that we're facing, create jobs, move the economy forward, and get a healthcare system that works for everybody. Those are the issues that everybody cares about. When I'm in Nevada and when I'm having these conversations, that's what they talk to me about: jobs, the economy, and healthcare. Those are the 3 top issues that are on everybody's minds, and those should be what we concentrate on here in Washington, D.C. So there's some solutions. I hope that's helpful. But thank you very much for the call. I know it can be frustrating, but there are solutions that are out there. Maybe it's going to take another election before we can move this country forward. I hate to think that that's how that's what's going to move it forward. I think we can do it with everybody that's in place now, but it just doesn't seem to be working that way. Thanks for the call, and I'll continue to work for these bipartisan solutions. Let's go to Charlie. Charlie in Searchlight.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm well, thanks.
Okay. My concerns are, first of all, charity begins at home. How are we going to help people in our own country if we're supporting thousands that are coming across the border illegally?
Okay. Couple of questions there. There's a couple of answers there, but obviously child migrants, as I think most on this call are well aware of, the problems that we're having in Texas, Arizona, and New Mexico of nearly 100,000 children that have crossed the border here recently, and that's becoming a big issue. I'm concerned about the increased numbers of these unaccompanied children that are crossing the border. It's a real problem, not just for the United States, but a real problem for these children. I'm concerned about the risk it poses in creating a humanitarian crisis, and that's where we are today on our nation's border. So if you look at immigration reform, I'm a supporter of immigration reform, and I think most people on this phone call are for immigration reform. If you're not for immigration reform, and we have 11 million undocumented immigrants, we're going to have another 11 million if we don't do something to change the current laws that we have in place. So any new piece of legislation, like the bill that came through the United States Senate, a borders first legislation, something I did support, is the way to start. It's the beginning of that, is to secure our borders, and I agree with that. I sent a letter to the president today, urging him to make it clear to those entering the U.S. illegally that they will not receive special treatment when it comes to enforcing our immigration laws. A number of senators, that was a, by the way, bipartisan letter to the president asking them to take a look at this situation. This situation only reinforces why Congress, in my opinion, must pass comprehensive immigration reform to secure our nation's borders. And that's what this Senate bill did. We're literally going to put, if it passes, a border agent every 1,000 feet on our borders to protect them. We have been in contact with the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Department of Defense, and the Department of Homeland Security, trying to solve these issues and the problems that most people on this phone believe that we currently have when it comes to immigrations and children that are here that aren't with parental companionship. So anyway, let's move on. Thank you very much. And talk to Patsy. Patsy.
Hello. Before I give you my question on the economy, I do want to make one comment about the veterans, because I believe this is such an important issue for our country to take care of everybody. I don't know why. I know everybody's working hard to pass national stuff that'll get rolled out nationally, but by the time it gets here, it's like a little wave. Why isn't it that we can't assemble a list of the things we could do quickly here to help our veterans hospitals in Las Vegas? For example, one of the things they do as a strategy is they've cut all their outside the hospital work so they can have everything inside under their control, like doing all the veterans who were receiving infusions at home. They are no longer getting them at home. They're mandatory bringing everybody into the hospital or making them come in. I don't see why that's necessary. But if we could put a list like that and just knock off one every other week, we would make a lot of local progress.
Okay.
Number two, on the economy, same way after World War II when Mr. Eisenhower came out and put together a national roadway system, why can't we come out and put in a national water pipeline system? That in fact, we've got the Mississippi, we've got the Columbia, we've got the Ohio. We could have pumping stations so that we could balance water across this whole United States. We do it with everything else. Plus, it would create a lot of jobs in the process and solve a lot of problems. Get rid of it where they have too much of it, like Minnesota these days, and see if we can't sustain a lot of the Southwest.
Okay. Yeah, those are questions that last question about infrastructure, water infrastructure, and the needs, obviously, that we have in Central California, Northern Nevada, real issues right now with pertaining to this drought. Is there a way that we can move some of this water? And it does become controversial. We know that we're trying to move some water from the eastern portion of the state of Nevada down to Las Vegas for the needs in the southern end of the state, and that has become very controversial and gets caught up in the courts. Gets caught up in the courts for so many so many years. It's very, very difficult. But it's something that we ought to take a look at. And I think it is a responsibility of the federal government to look at these infrastructure needs. In fact, that's what I've said, probably one of the three most important things that you can do here in Washington, D.C. One is obviously defense of the country, and you talked a little bit about the VA and improving that system. Second, infrastructure needs, roads, highways, bridges, waters, you name it. And then third, of course, is making sure that there's a safety net out there to help those that need a help up. And I believe in all three of those things. And that's why when you look at my voting record, how I move forward generally are based on those three areas: defense, infrastructure, which you're talking about, and of course a safety net. And there's a highway bill that's going to expire, I think, at the end of this month. And that would be a shame. We have all these improvements in the state of Nevada. I think we're about $10 billion behind in road improvements just in the state of Nevada. Highway bill that's funded certainly would help so that we can keep these projects online. But as you say, helps with creating jobs. Infrastructure does help. And whether that's technology and access to the internet, again, water structures, canals, or roads and highways. These are job creators, and it is a responsibility of the federal government to make sure that we move products and commerce from one end of the country to the other. And that does grow jobs, not just those that are building the roads and bridges, but those that are working at each end of the state, the country, and moving products that they produce. But I have talked, let's move to the first question, the VA, talked to Director Duff, have had conversations with him about certain things that we can do and improve what our VA solutions and problems may be. One of the things that we did insert in the McCain-Sanders compromise, which you may be well aware of, but for those that are on the phone, it would allow veterans to see private doctors outside the VA system if they are experiencing long wait times or live more than 40 miles away from a VA facility. So if you're living in Elko, Winnemucca, Pahrump, Tonopah, it's very, very difficult to get to a VA hospital. We have over 300,000 veterans in the state of Nevada, and I think it's very important that that there's options out there. An earlier call said, in fact, the first call of the evening was talking about how many years it's taken in order for an individual to get their health care that they need or actually get the benefits because the backlog is so bad. I've worked with that on a working group, but it's good to know that there are specific things that we can do and roll out. For example, like the ability to see a private doctor. You're not able to do that today, but we do believe if you're outside a 40-mile radius or your waiting times are so long, you should have another option, that is to be able to see a private doctor. And I think we can move a proposal like that forward. Those are just options, improvements, and again, not all of them coming at once, but time to time see good improvements and good opportunities to help our veterans here in this state and across the country. Hey, let's go back to this survey question that I talked about earlier, because I just want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to participate. I'll probably do it another time, well, at least one more time throughout this evening. I just want to make sure everybody gets this opportunity that has to do with the economy and whether or not you think the economy is improving. Certainly the president talks about an improved economy. However, we still have 20 million Americans that are either unemployed or underemployed, which means real unemployment somewhere around 12%. In Nevada, we remain one of the highest in the nation at 7.9%, and real unemployment probably closer to 15%. So the survey question for today, do you feel like the economy is turning around? On your phone in front of you, on your keypad, press 1 for yes, 2 for no, and 3 if you're undecided. Yes if you think it's improving, no if you do not think it's improving, 3 you're undecided. And by the way, I'll give you the results of these numbers at the end of the hour so that you can see where others in the community feel about this same question. Okay, let's move on to Tom in Henderson.
Yes, my question is, or my concern is the people coming across the border. Okay, they're not all children. Why is if they are, why is the Department of Homeland Security trying to get 42,000 sets of medium and extra large underwear? And I also want to say that school is out, and there's a lot of empty, idle school buses to send these kids back.
Well, you've asked two different questions, and two good questions. One is about the unaccompanied child migrants, and the other one, of course, is being our immigration system itself and border security. And we should pass immigration reform, and I would hope that everybody on this phone understands that if we don't do anything, if we sit back and let the current laws run its course, we're going to end up with an additional 11 million people in this country coming over our borders, and that needs to change. That's why I've supported comprehensive immigration reform, so that we do secure these borders that we have, so that they're not so porous. I want to go back to these migrant children and my concern about this humanitarian crisis that we're now seeing. And that's what I believe the concern was with the 42,000 diapers, underwear, whatever is necessary to help these children. But the issue is that the Customs and Borders Patrol can only hold these children by law for only 72 hours. That's the law, for 72 hours, and then they have to release them. And so they're releasing them at these different states, within these different states. This is a real issue and a real problem that is going to get worse before it gets better. And we've had conversations. I've noticed that some of these states are looking for a way to help bolster the security in these different states and on these borders. So this is an issue that has come to the forefront. That's why I wrote a letter. As I mentioned earlier today, I wrote a letter to the president, bipartisan letter. Feinstein was on this letter. Al Franken was on this letter, that urged the president to make it very clear that those entering the U.S. illegally, that they will not receive special treatment when it comes to enforcing our immigration laws. So clearly we need to enforce those border laws. But as some are saying, they're spending more time changing diapers than they have an opportunity to Border Patrol than actually controlling the borders. Big problems, big issues. So time to reform the system. And I hope everybody on this phone understands that reform is needed. I think everybody on this phone understands the need for immigration reform, because the system that we have in place today simply is not working. We need good, strong language. We passed that out of the Senate. Hopefully the House will make, and it wasn't a perfect piece of legislation by any means, but the goal is to get the House to move on their ideas so that we can go to conference and iron out the differences. We'll get there. I think we'll get there. But anyway, Tom, thanks for the call, and thanks for spending time with me. And I'm going to stay in Henderson now and talk to Tony. Tony in Henderson?
Yeah. My question is about the martial law. Are you familiar with it?
What in specifically? Which one are you talking about?
Law stating that the U.S. military will take over the government because they don't have the proper. Well, they just can't. They're not capable of functioning for our country anymore.
Right. That's the discussion. I see a lot of that on the internet discussing martial law. If in fact there's a belief out there that we're in a situation too big of a crisis that it has to move that direction. I think we've had several occasions. Hurricane Katrina, I think, was the last time that they enforced martial law because of the circumstances of the situation where there were so many helpless people. Do you have a specific question? All right, we lost them. All right, but I am not a big fan. I'm not a big fan of martial law. If that's the question that you had particularly, and I certainly believe that the American people are strong enough. Maybe Katrina was a different situation. I'm certainly not going to cast doubt on that situation, but I would argue that most Americans believe that to be subject to martial law would eliminate our due process. And due process, I think, in our Constitution is critical. And since I've sworn to uphold the Constitution of the United States, I'll continue to do so. And due process, I believe, is a very, very important aspect of that. Very good. Let's move on. I want to go back to Las Vegas to talk to Kathy. Kathy?
Yeah, well, my name's Cecil Freddy. I've lived in Las Vegas for 71 years.
Wow. Go ahead, Cecil.
Hey, am I talking? Hey, I didn't think I was going to get through. Anyway, Dean, listen, we got a problem with the sage grouse. When you were a congressman, I went down to I called your office and said, look, I need to talk to you. And, well, you got to write a letter, you got to do this. I said, this is serious. This is many years ago. There's some issues on this sage grouse that people are not aware of. I wrote my first article in 1989 about it. I knew it was going to be a problem, and it's only gotten worse. I need 5 minutes of your time. That's all I need to show you what's going on with this.
Okay. Cecil, I'm eager to do that. Let me give you that phone number to the office. It's 388-6605, 388-6605. Talk to my staff. Talk to Jack down there, and let's set up a phone call that you and I can have this 5-10 minute conversation. Talk about sage grouse. There is a lot going on. For those that are on the phone, they'll determine by, I think it's September of next year, 2015, as to whether or not to list the sage grouse, and the impact the listing of sage grouse would have on Nevada and 10 other western states would be huge. It'll affect mining, it'll affect agriculture, it'll affect the ability to have recreation on vast portions of the state of Nevada, and Cecil's right. So let's have that conversation. Again, call my office, talk to Jack at 388-6605. He'll set up that phone call. You and I will have this conversation. I want to share with you what I'm attempting to do on our side to keep this bird from being listed in the state of Nevada. Look forward to that conversation. Let's go to Las Vegas and talk to Kathy. Kathy?
Yes, I have 2 comments to make. What better way to get terrorists in the country than to come in with these kids? And second, the other gentleman about piping the water, we have the best engineers in the world. We pipe oil, we pipe gas. Why can't we pipe water? The Mississippi is 6 foot over, really. The west, especially Nevada, Lake Mead is so low. We need the water, and it would put so many people to work.
You're right. Kathy, thank you for that call. I'm living on both sides of the country right now. I spend 4 days a week on the East Coast and 3 days a week on the West Coast, and I'll tell you the vast difference between the weather this winter was certainly incredible. The storms, we had snowstorms well into spring this year. One of the worst storms on the East Coast, and yet on the West Coast, here we are right in the middle of a drought. And, it's affecting Central California, the impact that it has on what they produce, their agriculture there, and I've been in contact with a number of farmers in that area. That drought isn't just limited to Central and Northern California. Obviously, it's affecting Northern Nevada also. We know in Southern Nevada how hot it does get down there, but and to a degree, it's almost expected anymore, and as hot as it is in Phoenix. But we haven't seen a drought like this in Northern Nevada in decades, literally. So you're right. We do have the best. We do have the best engineering. We ought to, we ought to take a look at this, see what we can do. And as you mentioned, we're piping everything these days, and there should be some opportunity to pipe water from portions, at least within portions of the country itself. Whether piping just in the western states, we have plenty of water up in the Northeast versus pumping. Across the country. But there are solutions. There are answers, and we ought to take a look at that. As you mentioned, great infrastructure. There was a recent bill, and I was the lead Republican on this. It was called the Emergency Drought Relief Act, and that passed the Senate to help these farmers and ranchers in California and Nevada to make it through, to help make it through this drought. So we're doing what we can do, but we need long-term solutions, and I think that's what you were mentioning, Kathy. We need long-term solutions to our drought problems. Anyway, let's move forward and go back to Las Vegas. Talk to Jeff. Jeff.
Hello, Mr. Heller. Thank you for taking my call.
Yes.
Some great questions by the 2 callers, the one lady just right now, and then the one gentleman who initially talked about it, the infrastructure for the water. That's fabulous questions. I hope you have some good answers coming up in the future for us. My question is, New York City, they have just set aside $1.5 million for the development of worker cooperatives, Is there anything more that can be done as far as regulations for making it more co-op friendly for those who want to start co-ops here in I'm calling from Las Vegas, but all over Nevada? That would be very helpful in turning that question that you posed to us earlier around to, yes, the economy is getting better because now there's a lot more worker cooperatives involved.
Okay. Well, this is certainly something I can look into. I'm not certain if there's any legislation out there on the floor. What I'd like to do is do some research for you and see what might be available out there in order to move that forward. One of the things one of the urgent needs we need in the state of Nevada, I sit on the banking committee and I talk about this every week, and that is our ability to get more capital into the state of Nevada. We've lost half of our community banks in the state. In the last 5-6 years since the recession started, big banks are gobbling up small banks. And we're going to end up in this country with 4 or 5 mega banks, and I don't think that's going to serve our country well. And as businesses grow, co-ops grow, as we move this economy forward, certainly capital is going to be necessary in order for that to happen. And I don't want to see 4 or 5 big mega banks left in this country. We need to do what we can to help these medium-sized banks, community banks, small banks to expand, because they're the ones that are funding small businesses. Mega banks don't fund small businesses. They don't fund a major portion of family homes, loans for homes, and loans for kids, young adults to get to college, or the loans for housing, automobiles, you name it. Most of those come from small banks. So if we can expand the capital opportunities and access in the state of Nevada, I think the issues that you're talking about and discussing will be easier. So I'll look into this. If you want to call my office, I've left this number a number of times tonight, 388-6605. We'll do some research for you and see what opportunities are out there, and see if we can expand the financial base and expand the opportunities for job creation in the state of Nevada by looking at this particular issue. Jeff, thanks for the call. Thanks for being with me this evening. As you mentioned, there's a lot of good phone calls tonight, and I want to thank everybody who's joined me this evening so that we can have this conversation. But I'm always impressed. The questions are always good, and it certainly makes me have a better understanding, helps me understand my communities, and so that I can better represent you when I'm here in the United States Senate. So we got more time, and we have a number of people still waiting, so let's not waste any time and talk to Dwight. Dwight?
My question, hello?
Yes, Dwight, go ahead.
Oh, okay. My question with the unemployment. I can understand businesses, trying to do background checks, making sure that we're not, a felon and everything else. But I don't understand the credit checks. And it's actually keeping unemployment down, where people are trying to get a job, but they have to get a credit check, even though, your credit's bad because maybe you had a job and you lost it because the business closed. So, your credit kind of gets messed up because, you're looking for a job.
Right.
But now all these businesses want credit checks.
Right.
And it's keeping this unemployment down.
Okay. I would argue, and I'll take a deeper look into this, but I'd argue that it's probably a business-to-business decision as to whether or not there are credit checks. I would argue that on unemployment, obviously having one of the highest unemployments in the nation here in the state of Nevada at 7.9%, that we need to do everything we possibly can to get people back to work. And by the way, this 7.9% isn't just a number. These are individuals and families throughout Nevada that need help and that are hurting. I think unemployment insurance acts as a lifeline. In my opinion, that's why I've supported it for thousands of Nevadans and providing them with food, gas for their cars, roof over their head while they continue to look for work. That's why I'll continue. To support it. But these background checks, there are background checks. In fact, in the bill, the immigration bill that passed, there's E-Verify, which would verify an individual's status as to whether or not they're a citizen or not. That's part of this immigration bill, so that we can make sure that Americans are getting the jobs that are available in this country. But whether or not they're doing financial background checks, again, I think that is probably a business-to-business decision. Some may be doing it, some may not be doing it, but it would just depend on that business itself. So I know that makes it tough. In an economy like this, where there have been a number of bankruptcies and individuals who have lost their jobs and are struggling to get back into the workforce, it can be very difficult. So anyway, I guess the goal is that we need policies that help get people back to work. And in the meantime, make sure that there is a safety net out there to keep people on their feet in their homes. Just because they've lost their job shouldn't mean that they also lose their homes. So anyway, we've fallen on tough times in Nevada. We've been that way for 4 or 5 years, and a lot of financial troubles out there. So I'll continue to work on this while I'm out here in Washington, D.C. You continue to call me, listen to these teletown hall meetings, and together, I think all of us together can solve some of these problems. I think we've had about everybody that was going to call in this evening do so, and I want to thank you for taking time. I want to go back to this survey question. I'm just going to ask it one more time since everybody is on the line now, and that has to do with the economy and how you feel about it. We just had the last caller talk about how difficult it is to find a job because of some of the background checks that are being done and how difficult it is to get back into the workforce. But so tell me how you feel on this economy. You can use your keypad in answering this question. 1 would be for yes, 2 for no, and 3 if you're undecided. But the survey question is, how do you feel? Do you feel like the economy is turning around? The president talks about the economy improving, yet we still have 20 million Americans that are under or unemployed. Which means real unemployment throughout the country is probably around 12%. Real unemployment for the state of Nevada around 15%. So on your keypad, do you feel like the economy is turning around? 1 for yes, 2 for no, and 3 if you're undecided. Please participate. In fact, I will tell you that based on the information that we've received at this point, approximately 61% of you feel the economy is not turning around. It's higher in different portions of the state. 26% of you believe that the economy is improving, and 13% of you are undecided. So overwhelmingly throughout the state of Nevada. And I'll bet you I've had, this isn't a scientific survey by any means, but I'll bet you I've had 4,000 or 5,000 people actually answer this question. So just based on numbers alone, it's got to be close to accurate. But 60 to 61% tonight believe that the economy is not improving. 26% believe it is. So anyway, there's a real message in that for all of us, for you, but especially for me as I work on the critical issues of the day. I just want to emphasize that I believe the 3 most important issues facing Nevada today is jobs, the economy, and health care. And I'll continue to devote a majority of my time on those 3 issues. And we get caught up on some unusual issues back here in Washington, D.C., but jobs, the economy, and health care seem to be the top 3 issues that individuals throughout the state of Nevada want to talk to me about when I'm home on weekends. We still have more time. I want to get to a few more phone calls. Let's talk to Ray. Ray?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, why is it that the Republicans, when they talk about we need more jobs, their answer is extended unemployment insurance. And when we talk about immigration, it's the Republicans that want to reform the system. And I'm just kind of curious as to why aren't we going out there saying, well, we need the XL pipeline. We need to turn over some oil reserve leases so that so we can drill for oil. Let's not cut out all the coal-fired plants, because Harry Reid says that he's personally chopped down 8 or 10 proposals for coal-fired plants.
Okay. I will admit, but thank you for the call. I'm a little confused at your concerns that Republicans aren't pushing job-creating opportunities. I made a list of them earlier in this evening, talking about some of the solutions that Republicans are talking about, and frankly, bipartisan solutions that some Democrats are talking about. and that's one that you mentioned. The top of the list was to approve the Keystone. Republicans have been talking about approving the Keystone since I've been in the United States Senate. Governor Hoeven, now Senator Hoeven from North Dakota. It's his piece of legislation. I've supported him on that, and I know every Republican, frankly, every Republican in our conference supports the approving of the Keystone, because it will give us our own energy security here in this country. I, for one, support all of the above, which would include geothermal, which we have in northern Nevada, solar that we have in southern Nevada. We really would do well when it comes to renewables in the state of Nevada, but it has to be part of a bigger program, which would include the improving of the Keystone Pipeline. So there's a number of things. We need to stop the national energy tax. There's a national energy tax that's being pushed. If we stop that, that would create jobs and make sure that families we won't increase their taxes and change their lifestyle so much that they have to ride their bikes to work. Enacting fair trade agreements, not free trade agreements, but fair trade agreements. Regulatory reform. We need if we can cut the red tape for some of these businesses. Every agency, I feel like every time I hear the number, 25,000 new pages from BLM, another 25,000 pages from some other new federal agency. Just the red tape and the regulations that are coming down from this administration have been horrendous from the EPA. You go through the list, federal agencies, and the amount of regulations that these small businesses have to jump through. That's the argument that the Republicans are making. I believe, and will continue to believe, that defense, infrastructure, and a safety net are the three most important things we ought to be discussing back here in Washington, D.C., and that includes jobs, the economy, and a good health care system. So anyway, I hope that helps you understand where I'm coming from. You're focused on one party over the other, but there are a lot of bipartisan solutions out there, and I continue to list those that we could be working together on. So anyway, thanks for the call. If you have any additional questions, send me an email. You can do that by going to my website at heller.senate.gov and press the prompt for sending me a letter, and I'd love to hear from you, and anybody that's on the line for that matter. Love to hear from you. So anyway, we are down to the last question, and we still have a number of people on this call that want to hear from me or want to ask questions or have comments. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to call for one more person, get one more person on the line. The rest of you, please do not hang up. I'm going to send you to voicemail. And by doing so, myself or someone from my staff will have an opportunity to give you a call back and respond to your comments or the questions that you have. So please don't hang up. I'm going to go to the last caller, send the rest to email at the end of that call. Please leave your name and telephone number. Unfortunately, some forget to do so, and it's difficult for us to get back to you. So anyway, last caller that I have is Joe in Las Vegas. Joe?
Yes. How are you, Mr. Heller?
Good.
I'm a 73-year-old man. I'm appalled about what's going on with the IRS. In all the years that I've seen things, this tops the cake. All the Democrats think it's a big joke. People should be outraged what's going on, because this country was always standard for honesty. I think that people should also get after the media, like these medias that don't even say anything about this, to let the regular nation know what's going on, because people today, they don't pay attention. And I feel that it's really a wrongdoing. And I really think that we should worry about it, because now with this Lois Lerner, also if things don't go right, how do you expect us to get anywhere if the Attorney General he seems that he puts his head in the ground? And I think that there should be something done with this, because if this gets away and if they get away with what they did, I think this country is lost.
Okay, Joe. I think most of those that are on this phone call tonight agree with you. I want you to know that I certainly do agree with you. And after everything that you've said, and everything you said is correct, everything you've said, here's the bottom line. If an IRS agent were to come into your home and demand your emails, you'd have to turn them over. If you told an IRS agent that you deleted all your emails and that you recycled all your computers, you'd go to jail. And that's what the problem with this federal government today is. They don't believe that the same rules and laws that they put upon the American people have any effect on themselves. So when they go in front of these committees, and of course the Senate is having no hearings. Senate's having no hearings. They defend everything that's going on, unfortunately, but the House does not. The House does not. And so the House is having hearings, and I'm proud of what the House is doing. They held Lois Lerner in contempt, and I think rightfully so. But here's the bottom line is if a Republican president had done the same thing, this would be on the front page of the New York Times. Front page. You know where it is today? Like the 19th page. 19th page of the New York Times. Not on the front page of the Washington Post, not on the front page of USA Today, but because it's not a Republican president, it's in the very back. And that's a shame. That's what's wrong with America today is that the press is as partisan now as Washington D.C. itself, and that's a shame because it was up to the press. I believe it's up to the press to hold these bureaucracies and hold these politicians' feet to the fire, and it's just not happening. And it used to be. It used to be if you were a good journalist, your goal was to work for good papers, L.A. Times, Washington Post, New York Times. That's where you wanted to work, and now, unfortunately, journalists want to work in the White House, and so they're what they write, their messages are as partisan as Washington itself is today, and that's a shame. Anyway, that needs to change. That needs to change. IRS needs to change. We should demand from the IRS what they demand from the American people, and that's what I'm doing, and that's why I'm watching the House so closely because they are holding these hearings and, frankly, finally holding the IRS feet to the fire. But I don't know where it'll go. But I am appreciative, and I think most Americans are appreciative of the House of Representatives taking this serious because the United States Senate does not. Joe, thanks for the call. Or Ray, thanks for the call. Thanks for taking time and being part of this Teletown Hall meeting. I want to thank everybody who's joined us. We still have a number of people in the queue. We're going to send you over to voicemail. Please leave your comments, your questions. Love to hear from you, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So thank you. Have a good evening, and enjoy the rest of your week.